Hi there. Hi everyone. Let's grab our tea. Not caffeinated at this time of day for me. Welcome to day 4 of our blood sugar boot camp. How are you guys doing today? How was it? I'm curious of what you guys did yesterday. If you're following the actual schedule, what would have you cutting up the sugar at breakfast time yesterday, or if you're following my version of not following the schedule correctly, which was sweet drinks, is what I talked about yesterday. It doesn't matter what order you do it in. I'm curious how that's going for you. I would love it if in the comments you let me know what day you're on, what you're working on today, and what helped. I'm curious if there's any things that have helped you. I know like for me, after lunch is a particularly tricky time for me not to grab a sweet, because it seems like, I don't know, like I do get cravings for sweets after lunch, and my solution is always to have a bitter drink. It's kind of weird, but like coffee, but I use a product called Pero, P-E-R-O, and it's roasted barley and chicory. So it's like a coffee substitute. I love the taste of it. I think I've mentioned this, and another great product that's also gluten-free is called SIP, S-I-P. But I just, after I eat, I always have something to drink before my meal, sometimes with electrolytes, but a good drink of water so I'm hydrated, and I eat my meal, and then I like to have a hot, bitter drink. It seems like it finishes and cleanses my palate, or I brush my teeth. But usually this is what does it for me, and then I'm good. And then I'm good. I still sometimes have to do that. Oh yes, a craving. So I hope you have the guide, and I will add that to the comments if you don't have it, the Cut the Sugar guide. Today, this is a really, I love this topic. I want to talk about nighttime sweets, but you know me, I want to put an extra spin on this and give you a little bit more. I want to talk about circadian rhythms and timing of meals in terms of times of day, and what a big impact that has on your health, on your blood sugar, on your sleep, on your metabolism, on all the things. Because here's the thing. Thanks to the work of many people, but one of the more prominent ones is Sachin Panda. Sachin Panda is the author of a book called Circadian Code, and I encourage you to look that up. It's a really readable book. And he's a professor and researcher at the Salk Institute. And they've just done such is that everything in our bodies works on a circadian rhythm. And of course, for women, for menstruating women, overlay the infradian rhythm of our menstrual cycles. But we work on a circadian rhythm. It matters. So all of our organs, all of our enzyme productions and activity, they are affected by circadian cycles. They are affected by the light and the dark cycles. And they all interact with how we sleep. And I said before, because I talk a lot about sleep and improving sleep, because that's been such a challenge for me over the years. And I have to say, it is not anymore. I am a sleeping rock star most of the time, but I tend to it all the time. But we know that our sleep cycle, how we sleep, getting to bed on time and keeping a regular sleeping routine, that impacts our digestion and metabolism. And when we eat, how we time our meals, that impacts our sleep. So it's a two-way street that you can have some influence on. They influence each other a lot. And we also know that our ability to metabolize carbohydrates has a circadian rhythm and a preference. We metabolize carbohydrates better, more efficiently during the daytime than we do at night. And this is what we read. This is what studies have shown, and this is what we've confirmed using our continuous blood glucose monitors. if we have a certain like high carbohydrate sugary meal, or any meal really, the blood sugar curve on that looks different if we eat it at, say, 10 o'clock or 1 p.m. than if we eat it at 7 p.m. At 7 p.m., you will have a greater blood sugar spike. You're not as efficient at dealing with those carbohydrates at 7 in the evening. And it's even worse if you have it at midnight. I think there used to be, maybe there still is, that commercial about having the fourth meal, something Taco Bell or whatever. I don't know what it is. But that's basically a commercial for diabetes. Yeah, it's no good. So we know eating at night isn't good, but even eating later in the day, it's a big deal. And that's what I'd like you to focus on tonight. And honestly, you could spend a month on this. I have seen people just focus on their circadian rhythms and meal timing. And we also call this time-restricted feeding, which sometimes falls under the umbrella of intermittent fasting. I don't usually call it that, but you narrow your feeding window, which means the kitchen is closed after dinner and doesn't open up again until breakfast time, in a very simplistic way. So I encourage you to not only set a regular bedtime and a regular waking up time, and not let that vary by more than 30 to 60 minutes at all, ever, if possible. I know, except for the older you get, the more important that is, trust me. And then stop eating 3 hours before bedtime. You're done. You could have some water or herbal tea, but nothing with calories, nothing nutritive, no carbs, no protein, no fat, no nothing. Just let your digestive system be done for the day. It makes such a big difference on your sleep and a big difference on your metabolism, right? So the task this week is watch your sweets in the evening. Cut out the evening sweets. And I know that's hard. But you might as well just go that extra mile and just stop eating 3 hours before bedtime. Just eat and be done with it. Yeah, I have seen big results with that. So the one thing I've seen with that clinically is that people sleep better. People sleep better. And the other thing is, this is sort of a duh, but overnight glucose levels are much lower. Lower in a good way. Yeah? Because when we talk about fasting, like how long did you fast? What we really need to have is we need to be in the fasted state. And the fasted state is not just no food going past the lips, but we need our insulin and blood sugar levels down at our baseline. At a good baseline, like between 70 and 90, ideally. But I see people with overnight blood sugar levels well above 120, 140, 180 and higher. Sometimes if you have diabetes, you have dysregulation of lots of things, of glucagon receptors and insulin and glucose. But with some people, it's just because they're eating late at night and drinking alcohol at night. Oh, Lord. Drinking alcohol really messes up your overnight glucose levels. And that's because the liver is a vital player in regulating blood glucose. And alcohol in any amount is a toxin. So as long as your liver is having to deal with alcohol, it's going to backburner all the other stuff it needs to do until it's done, which means dealing with whatever you just ate. So cutting out the alcohol, see, I'm just adding to your list, but when people stop eating 3 hours before bedtime, they don't have sweets in the evenings at all, even with dinner. Yeah, people eat sweets with dinner. And they eat a dinner that's maybe lower in carbohydrates, really moderate, so that they don't drink the alcohol, so they get into the fasted state by the time they go to bed. Let's say the bedtime's 10. By 10, they are in a fasted state. And then if they don't eat until 10 o'clock the next morning, that's a 12-hour fast, a legitimate 12-hour fast. Or most of the time we see people thinking they're fasting for 12 or 14 hours, but they're not in a fasted state for anywhere near that. Does that make sense? I know a lot of you are savvy to intermittent fasting, time-restricted feeding, and that is working for you. And I think that's really helpful. But, you know, the only way we really know that we're in that fasted state is using the continuous glucose monitors. Oh. So I know that snacking in the evening, that's a tough habit to kick. But these aren't hard things in the grand scheme of your adult life, right? I'm not being mean saying that. This is something you can do. I mean, I believe in you. You can do this. We can do hard things, and this is not really one of the hard things. But there are some tips that I can give you that will help you curb that snacking in the evening. Thing number one, eat more in the day. Eat more during the day. Oh my gosh, this is when I see most binge eating is an evening activity. It's almost always an evening activity. I know this. When I see people doing the intermittent fasting, what they do is they tend to not eat until noon, and they're working and they actually get really hungry and they don't eat enough. And so in the evening, they make up for it, which is fine from a your body needs it perspective, but it's not when they're able to digest their food and, you know, able to be fasted overnight, which makes a difference. So if you find you're a person who ends up eating a lot at night in the evening, close to bedtime because of that, you might want to shift your intermittent fasting back so that you're in the fasted state by 10 o'clock in the evening and your last bite of food is before 7 o'clock in the evening. Does that make sense? And I find people, the more you eat earlier, especially in the protein department, getting lots of protein earlier in the day really helps you not overreact. That's one. Two is just generally eating enough during the day. So some of you might eat a hearty breakfast, but you're so busy during the day that you don't eat and you get over hungry and overstressed and dehydrated. And when you get home, your body, in its wisdom, tries to feed you and nourish you. So you just pig out in the evening and you overcompensate for that. Some of us do this more than others. I know my system is very sensitive to stress. And so if I do too much, if I have too much stress during the day, like stress does that to me too. If I have a very stressful day, I need to stop and eat a little protein, drink some water, you know, nourish myself so that at least maybe it's stress from one angle, but it's not overtaxing the rest of my system. So eating enough of like protein and vegetables and things like that will really help. So in the evening, again, you don't overcompensate. Sleep better. Sleeping better helps. And of course, stop eating earlier will improve your sleep, and then sleeping better will reduce your cravings. And that's because as we get towards the evening, if we have a lot of stress, and that stress could be caused by poor sleep, then we're going to have really bad cravings in the evening for what we call hyperpalatable food. I think we know what hyperpalatable food is. The Snickers bar. It's chips and salsa in the evening. It's pizza and ice cream, and I'm not saying anything about pizza, but there's pizza and there's pizza. Eat your pizza earlier. Those are things that can really help. So that's helped to prevent cravings because, my big thing is work with your body, not against it. Some of those things in your body is your body telling you need more food. You need more food. And when you wait that long, then you end up choosing food that isn't nourishing to you. And you eat it at a time that isn't good for your body. So, but just brush your teeth after dinner because it cleanses your palate. The other thing you can do again is, have that hot drink, that especially a bitter drink. That can go a long ways towards curbing your appetite. Do something. Get busy. Yeah, sitting around and getting bored watching TV is food is binge eating fodder. Yeah, so get something done. But you know, it can be tricky. Phone a friend, have a lifeline, but give it a try. And because I think, here's what I think: the benefits are big. The payoff to stop eating at 7 o'clock or 3 hours before bedtime, eating at night, the payoff is big. And we notice it when we wear our continuous glucose monitors and we see it. It's so obvious that the reward is just worth it. So that's all I have to say about that. Stop eating. Now today is the first of our group coaching calls for my group coaching program, Nourish You. And this month it's combined with my continuous glucose monitor program. So I'm finishing this up. And at 3 o'clock, I'm going on a Zoom call with them, and we're going to talk about this very thing, and then some. We're going to add on to that and get people hooked up. So this is still open to you. If you'd like to jump in, let me know. All of my coaching calls will be recorded, provided I remember to hit the record button. And you can watch them on the replay, you can watch them live, and if you come live, then it's a coaching call for you, and you get to ask questions about the material or about your own needs. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful for you. What's tomorrow? Tomorrow's Friday. Tomorrow, we get to pick 2 whole days with of doing all the things. 2 days in a row of doing all the things, so Friday and Saturday. So just focus on the sweets tonight. I don't know if you're adding things and keeping the old things in. And then in that list, tell me what's been hard for you and tell me what tricks have worked for you. Okay? Okay, well, have a good Thursday evening. And I hope to see you back here tomorrow. I know I did this early today because of my group coaching call at 3, but I'm going to be back on at 3 on Friday. Same time, same place. Good night, you guys.